had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Worth Loving Podcast. I am so glad that you're here with me today because Thursdays are our question and answer days. I am your host, Kiana W. Mitchell, in case I didn't mention it earlier. So guys, this is the space where we can slow down, breathe a little deeper, and answer the questions you have sent in about your relationships, healing, and emotional growth. And today's questions are powerful, they're vulnerable, they are honest, and they reflect what so many people silently struggle with after betrayal. So if you're listening today and you experience infidelity or supporting someone who has, I want you to know this. You are not alone and you are not broken. Betrayal shakes the foundation of your emotional world, and it's normal to feel confused, conflicted, or unsure of what comes next. This episode is here to help you make sense of these feelings, not by telling you what to do, but by helping you understand what's happening inside you. As always, this is a judgment-free space. We don't judge people for staying. We don't shame people for leaving. We don't shame people for loving someone who hurt them. We simply explore the emotional truth of what it means to be human. So if you ever want to submit a question for a future question and answer episode, you can send it to the podcast email listed in the show notes. I read every single one, and I'm honored that you trust me with your stories. So let's start with a quick recap of this week's main episode, and then we're going to dive right into your questions. So this week's main episode was all about why people stay with a partner who cheats, and we approached it from a place of compassion and psychological understanding, not judgment. We talked about how attachment patterns, trauma bonds, and cognitive dissonance can make leaving incredibly difficult. We explored the emotional reasons why people stay, like hope for change, fear of starting over, and the deep love that doesn't disappear just because a betrayal happened. We also acknowledge the practical realities like finances, children, culture pressure, and the fear of disrupting your entire life. The goal wasn't to tell anyone what they should do, but to help people understand the emotional layers behind their decision. So today's questions are built on that conversation. And before we get to question number 1, we do have an ad for one of our sponsors. And so after that ad plays, then we're going to go right into question number 1. I want to take a moment to share something that can support you if you're ready to go deeper in your healing journey. My 12-week trauma-informed coaching program, You Are Worth Loving, is designed specifically for women who are healing from emotional abuse, rebuilding self-trust, and learning how to choose relationships that feel safe, healthy, and aligned. Inside the program, we work together to help you understand your attachment patterns, rebuild your sense of worthiness, learn how to set boundaries without guilt, break free from cycles of emotional unavailability, strengthen your intuition, and create a vision for healthy love. This isn't a surface level program. It's deeply supportive, emotionally safe, where you can heal at your own pace. You'll receive weekly coaching, guided exercises, and tools rooted in research from leading psychiatrists. Their work on attachment, trauma, and self-compassion forms the foundation of the program. Some of the psychologists we will be using their research on is Dr. Sue Johnson, Dr. Bessel van der Kelp, and Dr. Kirsten Neff. Their work is amazing, and I've used a lot of it in the podcast. So this is what we use to build our program and to make sure that people who are in the program get the help that they need. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I know what I need to do, but I don't know how to actually do it, then this program is for you. You don't have to navigate healing alone. You don't have to guess your way through dating or relationships. You deserve support, clarity, and a roadmap. So, if you're interested in joining the next class, stay tuned. Enrollment opens soon, and I would love to walk alongside you on this journey. Now, let's get back into today's episode. All right, let's get into it. Question number 1. Why do I still love someone who betrayed me? This is one of the most common questions I receive, and is one of the most misunderstood. People often assume that love should disappear the moment someone hurts you, but that's not how the heart works. And let me just be honest, there have been times where I've loved someone deeply, and they hurt me, but love didn't disappear at that moment. You love someone who betrayed you because the love was built on history, connection, and emotional investment, not on perfection. You loved this person before the betrayal, right? You shared memories, you shared routines, inside jokes, dreams, and moments that felt safe and real. These things don't evaporate just because something painful happened. Attachment also plays a huge role here. So when you're emotionally bonded to someone, your brain releases chemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, and this reinforces connection. Betrayal doesn't automatically shut that off. In fact, the shock of betrayal can make the attachment feel even stronger because your brain is trying to make sense of the loss of safety. There's also the part of you that remembered who that person was before the betrayal, the version of them who made you feel loved, chosen, and seen. So it's normal to grieve that version of the relationship. And here's the truth. Loving someone who hurt you doesn't make you weak. It just makes you human. Your feelings don't make you foolish. They don't make you naive. They simply reflect the depth of your emotional capacity. So the real question isn't, why do I still love them? It's, what do I need to feel safe emotionally moving forward? And I think that's where the healing will begin. Not trying to not love someone or stop loving someone, but asking yourself, what do I need to feel emotionally safe moving forward? All right, question number 2. Okay, this is good. How do I know if I should stay or leave? And I'm glad you asked that question. I will answer as best I can, but we're going to be doing an episode about that next week. So stay tuned for next week's episode because we're going to be offering more insight on what to look for, how you can make this decision. And once again, I'm not telling you to stay or leave. That is not my place. I'm just giving you facts so that you can make an informed decision based on you, your emotional safety, and your emotional needs, whether you should stay or leave, okay? But that's a question that only you can answer. But I can help you explore the things that might make this decision a little easier. So first, let's just remove the pressure. There's no timeline, okay? There is no right answer that applies to everyone. Staying doesn't mean you're weak. Leaving doesn't mean you're cold. What matters here is emotional safety. And I think a lot of times in these situations, we forget about the person who is the most important in this situation. And that person is you. It's not the relationship that's the most important. It's not the other person that's most important. It's about you. It's about your feelings. It's about your healing, right? So what really matters is your emotional safety. Here are a few questions I would suggest you ask yourself. Question number 1. Do I feel emotionally safe with this person? Not, did I feel safe before? Not, can I feel safe again someday? But let's talk about this moment, like right now, today. Do you feel emotionally protected? Question number 2. Is my partner taking real accountability? Accountability is not, I'm sorry you feel that way. Accountability is not, it doesn't mean anything. Accountability is not, let's just move on, okay? Accountability is, I understand the impact of what I did. Accountability is, I'm willing to rebuild trust. Accountability is, I'm committed to transparency and change. Question number 3 to ask yourself, am I staying out of fear or out of hope? So fear sounds like, I don't want to start over. Fear can also sound like, what if no one else will love me? Or fear can sound like, I don't want to be alone. Hope sounds like, I see consistent change. Hope looks like and sounds like, we're rebuilding something healthier. Hope sounds like, I feel emotionally supported. And finally, question number 4. What do my values say? So when we ask this question, we're talking about our values, not your fears. Your values should guide your decision. You don't have to decide today. You don't have to decide next week. You just have to be honest with yourself about what you need to feel whole again. And I think that's important when you are beginning to heal and when you're trying to make a decision about whether you should stay or whether you should go. Question number 3. Why does it still hurt even after I made my decision? Wow, that's a very important question, and it's deep too. because many people just assume that once they decide to stay or leave, the pain should disappear. But that's not how healing works. It would be great if it did, right? Because we wouldn't have to worry about dealing with pain for longer periods of time. But that's just not how healing works. It still hurts because you're grieving not just the betrayal, but the version of the relationship you thought you had. And I think it's important for us to not minimize, but just talk about it for a minute. When we get in relationships, especially long-term relationships, even at the beginning of relationships, we have in our mind how we want this relationship to go. We have what we expect out of this relationship, the things we could build. We have a lot of hope relying on these relationships, a lot of what we want our lives to look like in these relationships. So when there is betrayal and the version of the relationship you thought you had is not what you actually had, or that person you thought you were in a relationship with turns out not to be the person you thought they were, there is a grieving process. We're not just grieving a betrayal, but you're grieving the loss of what you thought you had, the loss of what you could have had, the loss of the future you wanted with this person. So you're grieving the trust that you lost as well. There are a lot of things that you're grieving. So it can feel like a death, right? Because it's the loss of a relationship. And many times we take for granted that, oh, well, this person just cheated, or it's like someone died, right? But it is like a death to you because it's something that was very deeply personal, something you were invested in that you have lost, even if it's just trust, even if it's that image of what you thought that person or your relationship was, it is still a loss. So there is a grieving process. And so you're grieving even after you make the decision. You're even grieving the future you imagine. You're grieving the emotional safety that was taken from you. So even if you make the right decision for you, your heart still needs time to catch up. It also hurts because betrayal impacts your nervous system. Your brain is trying to make sense of something that doesn't align with the love you felt. The emotional conflict takes time to process. And here's something people don't want to talk about. Pain is not a sign that you made the wrong choice. Pain is a sign that you're human and that you cared deeply. Healing isn't linear, and I said this a lot, because some days you're going to feel strong and grounded, and other days you're going to feel confused and sad. Both of these are normal. Both of these feelings are part of the process. So give yourself permission to feel without judgment toward yourself. Don't judge yourself for it. Give yourself permission to feel these feelings without judging yourself for it. Okay, question number 6. Not question number 6. Question number 4. How do I rebuild trust in myself? And I've heard this one a lot. So this is a powerful question, and I get asked this a lot of times. Because betrayal doesn't just break trust in your partner, it breaks trust in yourself. You start questioning yourself, like, how did I not see this? Why didn't I leave sooner? Can I trust my judgment? Will I ever feel confident again? So rebuilding self-trust is a process, but it's absolutely possible. And here are some ways you can do it, okay? The first way you can do this is start by listening to your intuition again. Your intuition did not fail you. Sometimes someone else violated your trust, and being reconnected with that inner voice can help you notice small cues. So I think it's very important for us to realize that our intuition didn't fail us. Someone else violated your trust, which is outside of your control, right? Because we're only responsible for ourselves. But we can begin reconnecting with our intuition and with that voice that notices small cues. So we can begin to ask ourselves things like, what feels good? What feels off? What feels peaceful? These are some ways we can begin to rebuild that trust in ourselves. We can honor our boundaries, yes. So every time you set a boundary and follow through, you reinforce self-trust. Boundaries are not walls, they are clarity. And it can go a long way with rebuilding the trust back in yourself. Another thing we can do is make small decisions and follow through. Self-trust grows through consistency. Just like when you go to the gym, just like practicing singing or practicing football or whatever you like to do that requires practice. The more you practice it, the better you get, right? So self-trust grows through consistency. It starts with small commitments. I'm going to rest today. And then you rest that day. I'm going to take a walk. You take a walk. I'm going to say no when I need to. And then you do it, right? Or in my case, I'm going to go to the gym. And I actually follow through with going to the gym. So every time you keep a promise to yourself, you begin to rebuild your self-confidence. You can also reconnect with your values. So I do want to point out that your values are your internal compass. So you can ask yourself, what matters most to me? What do I need to feel emotionally safe? What do I want my relationship to look like? When your choices align with your values, self-trust naturally strengthens. You're not starting from zero, but you are beginning to rebuild from wisdom. So I hope this was helpful because these are some ways that you can begin to rebuild trust in yourself. Question number 5. Is it normal to feel embarrassed that I stayed? Yes. The quick answer to that is yes. It's incredibly normal. But that embarrassment is rooted in shame, not truth. People often feel embarrassed because they're worried about what other people are going to think, right? They fear being judged, pitied, or misunderstood. They fear that people are going to assume they didn't know their worth. And it's true because, especially family members and friends, we are all quick to judge and be like, why would you stay so long? You saw this person was doing this. You saw them doing this. Why would you stay? Do you not love yourself? Or I've even heard people say, if you go back to this person, I'm not going to be your friend, right? But that's not fair for people looking on the outside to make any judgment about you. But because this is what happens, a lot of times people do feel embarrassed and they feel shamed. And it is normal for this to happen because we're worried about what other people are going to think. And let me just tell you, people have a lot of opinions about a lot of things, but it does affect what we think about ourselves and decisions that we make because we don't want to be judged by other people. But here's the reality, okay? And here's something that's very important. Staying does not mean that you don't love yourself. Staying doesn't mean you're weak. Staying doesn't mean that you're unaware. It means you made the decision that was best for you with the emotional tools, information, and circumstances you had at that time. And I think that's important to understand because we make decisions based off what we have at that moment, the emotional insight that we have, the information we have, and the circumstances at that time. And let's be honest, people who have never been in your situation will always have opinions, but their opinions don't heal you. Opinions don't understand your attachment, your history, your family, your finances, or your emotional reality. So I want you to remember and know that you don't owe anyone an explanation for your choice. I would love for you to release that shame, release the embarrassment, because you are allowed to choose what feels right for you. All right, question number 6. How do I stop blaming myself for what happened? This is very hard because self-blame is one of the most painful parts of betrayal, and it's also one of the most common. People blame themselves because it gives them a sense of control. So if you believe you caused the betrayal, then you can believe that you could have prevented it. But here's the truth. Infidelity is a choice made by the person who cheated, not a reflection of your worth, not a reflection of your flaws, not something you caused. You could have been the most loving, supportive, emotionally available person in the world, and someone who is capable of cheating would still have cheated. So in order to stop blaming yourself, you have to separate responsibility from worth. You are responsible for your healing. You are responsible for your boundaries. You are responsible for your emotional growth. But you are not responsible for someone else's betrayal. Let that truth settle into your body. You didn't cause this. You don't deserve this. And you are allowed to heal without carrying someone else's choices on your back. So it's important to know this had nothing to do with you. This was all them. Okay? All right. So before we wrap up today's question and answer, I want to share something special with you. If you haven't listened yet, my new Emery Rose mini drop, The Soul of a Woman, is officially out on all streaming platforms. And based on the questions we got today, I think that the songs would be very good when it comes to healing from breakups, healing from cheating. I think these songs can help give some reflection because the way I wrote the songs, it's like the first one I did about, it's called The Last Time, but each song goes deeper and deeper until you get to the point where the person is healing and they're happy with who they are. So if you haven't listened to it, I would love for you to listen to it. This project is a love letter to every woman who has ever rebuilt herself, rediscovered her voice, or learned to honor her emotional truth. These songs were created to hold space for your healing, your softness, your strength, and your resilience. So if you're walking through heartbreak, rediscovery, or emotional growth, I hope that this music meets you exactly where you are. And once again, you can stream The Soul of a Woman wherever you listen to music. So I want to thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. These questions were honest, they were vulnerable, and deeply human. And I'm honored that you trusted me to walk through them with you. Healing after betrayal is not a straight line. Some days you're going to feel strong and grounded, and then other days you're going to feel tender and unsure. Both are part of the journey. What matters most is that you keep choosing yourself over and over and over and over again. Your emotional safety and your truth. You don't have to rush your healing, and you don't have to justify your choices. You don't have to carry shame after, or you don't have to carry shame for being human or carry shame for someone else. You deserve a relationship that honors your heart. You deserve emotional safety. You deserve love that doesn't require you to abandon yourself. So, guys, if you want to submit a question for next week's question and answer, and here's the thing, I understand that a lot of the times the questions may not align with the show for the week, but any question you have, I would like for you to look into the show notes, and there is a submission link, and that submission link is really simple, okay? Just click on the link for the email address to the show, type question in the subject line, and I will get your question. I would definitely love to hear from you. So, thank you guys again for listening. Thank you for showing up for yourself. And make sure you listen to The Soul of a Woman to help you on your healing journey. All right, bye-bye.
I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize